Does it let you share screen?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to like just do a welcome first, but instead of me just going right into it.
Okay, I was gonna have you pull it up first and then introduce, but
Oh,
that's
okay,
my
yeah.
bad.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Ankita. I'm a junior based in Georgia, and I'm so excited to have Nicolette from Asian Texans for Justice. If you don't already know the organization, Asian Texans for Justice essentially works to further progressive causes in Georgia, specifically related to the AANHPI diaspora. They reach like people of that descent and essentially work in a lot of different avenues, especially during the legislative session when a lot of bills are currently being pushed out and passed through the House and the Senate. So we'd love to have Nicolette take it away and talk to her a little bit more about like um, her work with pushing Asian American studies in the classrooms.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ankita. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully everything looks good. So hi, again, my name is Nicolette. My pronouns are she, her, sha. I am the programs manager for Asian Texans for Justice. We'll talk a little bit more about the organization in the next couple of slides, but would love to take a moment to do a quick land recognition. And what this means is really to like center ourselves in the work that we're doing, where we're coming from and showing up in our places of residence, where we live, where we work, where we go to school, to make sure that we are upholding those values. So just want to quickly read the Native Land disclaimer. Our Native Land Digital honors the sovereignty of all Indigenous nations, their lands, and their waters. We recognize that these boundaries and territories are representations of the sacred. We respect the rights of Indigenous data sovereignty, and we are committed to an ongoing process of collaboration, growth, and learning. We work to update and replace information that is a continuation of trauma caused by theft, injustice, misinformation, and ignorance. And this map is a living document informed by the contributions of Indigenous communities, Indigenous knowledge holders, and their stories. It does not claim to represent official or legal boundaries, but we encourage you to connect directly with the Indigenous nations to learn more about their territories and histories. This is honoring of our Indigenous resilience past, present, and the future. So I'm actually going to share, oh, it goes all the way over there. I have no problem giving my address. So here we go. This is where I live in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm coming to you. I think, remember, yes, the Jumanos, the Coahuilatecan, the Tonkawa native lands. And San Antonio specifically is known as former Yanaguana. So this area was inhabited by those tribes. So take a moment if that's something that interests you, go to native-land.ca and really take a look, see what native land you're resting upon and how are you what the work you're doing today is honoring that land. All right, we'll go move on through. So a little bit about Asian Texans for Justice. We are a statewide nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that really uplifts and empowers the 1.9 million Asian American Pacific Islanders, Texans, to civic action. And we got our early beginnings actually out of tragedy, which is crazy to say. But it was after the 2021 Atlanta spa shooting. Us folks in Central Texas were really reeling from the massacre that happened in Atlanta, and we wanted to see what's a way that we can give back to our community. So we put together for the first ever Stop Asian Hate rally based in Austin at Huston-Tillotson University, which is just a local university here in Austin that really brought the community out in a way during the pandemic we've never seen before. We saw more and more cases of, anti-Asian hate crimes that were popping up all throughout the state of Texas. And we wanted to find a way to bring our community together in ways to advocate better for ourselves. So thus started Asian Texans for Justice. After a great turnout and mass mobilization, the organizers and founders really recognized that there was not a statewide AAPI civic engagement nonprofit. And that's, again, where Asian Texans for Justice was born. So our vision is where we envision a future where all people feel bold in their belonging. We connect, again, Asian and Pacific Islander Texans to civic action to build upon personal and political power. The only way, and I just recognized, I don't know if there's a box in the way. The only way we recognize by doing that is really uplifting our voices, our lived experiences, who we are as a community to show up in places where we have not always been seen. So the three main ways that we do that is first and foremost, youth leadership and coalition building. We know that this generation and future generations of young AAPI Texans really deserve to see themselves as the leaders that need to bring about change in our community. And we can only do that by building upon actual coalition power. So that means finding the intersections between BIPOC communities, finding the intersection with disability communities. That means finding places where we can come together and use our shared values and shared interests to better advocate for our communities. We take that and we show our strength through civic engagement, through this collective action. We are taking our communities to the power, where that power is at the ballot box, where we know that we provide, voting resources in Asian languages. We provide basic voter registration opportunities in Asian languages. We show up in our communities to help them mobilize on what it takes to bring that power forward. And then we take our policy advocacy with meaningful change through equity and progress, both at the state legislature and the state board of education. Currently, right now, we're starting to see even more so the anti-alien land law bills that are coming up. And it's essentially trying to bar individuals from specific countries from purchasing land. This includes China, Iran, Russia, North Korea. Of those countries, they're trying to bar them from purchasing land. So we're really working as a statewide entity to mobilize our community, show up and tell our lawmakers, the people in power that this is not representative of Texas. This is not representative of our communities. And by discriminating against one is discriminating against all. And then in addition to that, we also do a lot of our state advocacy work at our State Board of Education, which is also why we're talking here today to talk to y'all a little bit more about how Asian American Studies really just flourished out of the organizing and mobilizing work that we've done over the past couple of years. And feel free to, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. Sometimes I get really excited and I'll speak really fast. So if you need me to slow down or anything like that, I'm happy to also do so. So a little bit about Texas Education 101. For folks that are not in Texas, more power to you. But know that Texas, we're fighting every single day. We know that a lot of the, unfortunately, that a lot of the bad legislation that happens here tends to multiply in other states. So we're very cognizant about what's happening, and really the key players that are in this fight know that we're working every single day to really advocate for our communities. So when we talk about Asian American studies, we've got two major players in the statewide level that really make this happen. The first and foremost is our State Board of Education, also known as SBOE. They're elected officials led by our chair, Erin Kinsey, and it's responsible for setting the curriculum standards, reviewing and adopting instructional materials, and establishing graduation requirements for Texas public education. Now, and then on top of that is the Texas Education Agency. It is a state government agency led by one of the commissioners, Mike Morath, who is responsible for administrating funding, statewide assessments, providing support to the SBOE on curriculum and instruction. So these two major players really help lead and guide what moves forward. And just to reiterate again, we at Asian Texans for Justice, we work in education because it's important to understand this Texas public education landscape. Let's see, I think I'm caught up on my notes. Awesome. So on this next slide, I kind of want to talk y'all through where we're at with Asian American studies. So we're one of a handful of states who are possibly really pushing this forward for Asian American studies. So we're in this idea of this innovative course process where first and foremost, we have to pilot for 2 years. And within these 2 years, we're collecting data and students are not currently receiving credit for taking the course. Then after the 2 years, they'll apply to be an innovative course, which includes reviews, and also the State Board of Education votes on its approval. Once it's approved, it's placed on a catalog for schools to offer. Now, this doesn't mean right off the bat that they're going to select it. It almost means like we have to market it and advertise it in a way so that way schools can take it on, and then students can start receiving state credit for these courses. and then will apply to be a TEKS-based course, which means that it will be implemented further into the actual Texas public school curriculum, and then adopted as an ethnic studies course. For instance, here in Texas we already have Mexican American Studies that was established in 2018, and components of our Asian American Studies in 2020. So as of right now, we are here. We're still piloting. We're in our second year of doing it right outside of Austin, Texas, in a district called Round Rock ISD. That's predominantly, it's got a huge API population there. So a lot of the students that are taking the course are also students who identify as API. So in our couple extra slides moving forward, we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like for them. All right. And then to add on, we also are in the process, we have partners that are working on the Native American Indigenous, American Indian Native Studies course, excuse me. That's currently right here in this spot. They're waiting on votes to be eventually implemented in the TEKS-based course. So you may see stuff on social media. Folks are really pushing out petitions to make it onto the April agenda before the State Board of Education. But the idea here is, again, all of these ethnic studies courses are very important to the fabric of Texas, to the fabric of teaching Texas public students accurate history that reflects our communities, reflects our actual history. So why is this even important? We know that about 10% of American school children are educated in Texas. So this means how history is interpreted in Texas can influence curriculum all across the country. This is why supporting other ethnic studies and teaching an inclusive and accurate curriculum is so important. So in 2022, we at Asian Texans for Justice, we started advocating at the SBOA. And I actually have a video that I'm going to share with y'all right now. Let me just start playing. Nope. Here we go. Nope, that did not go. 1 second. Clicking. No. Ay. Hold on, maybe it's because I'm not in optimizing. Hold on 1 quick second. I don't think I can share the, here, share sound and optimize. See.
Texas is home to more than 1.8 million Asian Americans. But Asian American students rarely saw themselves reflected in their textbooks. In all of K through 12 standards, there were only 2 mentions of Asian American history. As the fastest growing racial group in the state, our AAPI youth were tired of waiting to be included. So we submitted it. In August of 2022, dozens of Asian American youth, educators, and community members showed up in Austin, Texas to testify in front of the State Board of Education.
I hear from my friends that when they're in history class, they feel like they're being left out. Coming from Houston, a place that has a thriving AAPI community, and as a Mexican American, I wish I was able to learn about the true history about the Asian American community.
As an Asian American student, I've never seen myself or my identifiers reflected accurately in my classrooms. As a kid, this noticeably impacted my self-esteem.
Lots of people who are in my class are Asian American. I hope we can learn our stories.
The stories were deeply personal and sometimes even painful. But we would not be intimidated by those who hold power.
Is having empathy controversial? Is learning about each other's history controversial? Never once did my curriculum or textbooks offer me insight into what my community has done in the decades and centuries that we've been here.
I had to learn my family's history at the price of them reliving their trauma.
I'm here as a student of Texas education system to ask for your support in providing the school system with an accurate reflection of the history of America, as well as to providing a safe space for BIPOC students within the school system through the passage of all ethnic studies.
These powerful testimonies ignited the start of a greater movement for Asian American studies. In 2023, the first pilot of the Asian American Studies course was born in Austin, Texas. The work towards a Texas where all students are represented and feel bold in their belonging continues. Join our movement for an accurate and inclusive Asian American curriculum in Texas public schools.
All right, so for context again, oh, did I lose my screen share? I think I did.
No, you're still screen sharing. You're good.
Okay, it just changed the weird size for me. Hold on one second. There you go. I saw somebody put in the chat that was their ISD. Hi, nice to meet you. All right, so for context, all social studies TEKS are revised about every 10 years, and only 2 mentions of Asian American history actually shows up in K through 12 TEKS. The last time the social studies TEKS had actually been drastically changed was about 2008, 2009. So again, we're seeing that there's showed in the video, actually, I'm going to go back one second. Shown in the video is that we don't have an accurate representation of all the different contributions that Asians and Asian Americans have done over the years. We know historically that there have been generations and generations of Asians and Asian immigrants that have been in Texas. Like, for instance, here in San Antonio specifically, we have some of the early Pershing Chinese that were actually established in the late 1800s, and they actually fought alongside General Pershing, which that's where they got their name, Pershing Chinese. They were actually helping to fight during the Battle of the Alamo. So again, like, these ideas and these thoughts that were facts in history were never really shared in our books. So you saw in those testimonies of students sharing how they would have wanted and would have appreciated learning about that history in public education. So we actually developed this website called Learn Our Stories. The Learn Our Stories website, coalition, and movement believes that Asian Americans are an integral part of the American story, past, present, and future. Asian American stories, experiences, and identities are inherently American and should be included in our students' education and curriculum. We believe that inclusive, historically accurate stories and experiences of all diverse Texans and Americans will create a better education system for all. And so with that, we have 2 major asks of our State Board of Education as of right now: to approve the Asian American Studies elective course framework. And the second thing is to integrate mentions of Asian American history to the K through 12 social studies TEKS program, to amend teaching about the Chinese Exclusion Act, to amend teaching Japanese incarceration, teach about the Pershing Chinese, and reframing the discussion on 9/11 and the war on terror, recentering on national rhetoric led to long-lasting impacts on the South Asian communities, especially the Sikh and Muslim communities, Muslim American communities. So what did mobilizing at the State Board of Education look like? So it took students, folks like y'all's, in y'all's age groups, maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, but them going to the State Board of Education and testifying and sharing why it's important for them to see themselves accurately represented in our books. So for instance, on this left-hand page, left hand of the screen, we had one of our fellows actually create this postcard. She's a graphic designer by trade, but created this postcard all to talk about Asian American history being American history, using key folks and, pillars of history. You see here Cesar Chavez and Larry Itliong. You see Yuri Kochiyama. You see Patsy Mink. Like, you see all these figures and historical figures throughout time that have not been represented in books. She took this and made it into a postcard. And what she did during the test, like everybody testifying, she gave all of the students this postcard that she printed and had them all basically fill out why Asian American history is important to them, and to mail it to their State Board of Education representative, telling them point blank, this is why it matters to me. Like, really taking this type of advocacy to the representatives to hear their voices. And then this picture in the middle is actually a group of us that went to testify all together. Again, you saw some of their testimony in that video, but we mobilized over 100 folks to be at the State Board of Education hearing. And on the right-hand side is our executive director, Lily True, who is speaking on behalf of our organization, because we want to teach the truth. We want our stories reflected in these books, and we want our stories to actually live in these living history books that we're learning every single day. So this is where it started, and it's crazy to think that, as someone mentioned, it's in their ISD, but Asian American Studies is being brought into our school system, and we want to continue sharing this all throughout the state of Texas, because we deserve that. Some challenges along the way is that it's also an election year. Every year is an election year in Texas, but specifically, we recognize that some members who were a part of this board had been primaried out. They were voted out. Somebody took their place and or retired. And then we saw some pushback on the items on the agenda. So again, we saw where our voices were being heard, but then when changes in the leadership happen, it kind of sets us all back. How to recreate and push forward our messaging and our initiatives. Featured here is actually one of our fellows, Ayan, who was one of the ones that testified during that State Board of Education hearing. We've been able to get really good responses and really push forward again what Asian American Studies means to all of us. We've gotten some responses as well from the board saying you need to pilot the course and go through the innovative course process, postponing the course. And honestly, we also had some other board members say this is essentially saying that we're giving up because we're not pushing this forward. So with that being said, we responded by, again, piloting this Asian American Studies course. And what we want to keep doing is piloting it not only in one school district and another school district, find more students to take the course, find more teachers to teach the course, really evaluate that curriculum to teach, and we need to also fundraise that money. But 2 years later, where are we now? 2+ years later, where are we now? We're still pushing forward. A Texas high school is piloting the first ever Asian American Studies course. Could politics stand in its way? This is actually one of our fellows. Her name's Indu from Round Rock ISD. She was also featured in this article, really sharing her thoughts of her as a student, as an AAPI student, taking this course and really what it means to her. Again, we talked about, the course itself, how many students were involved, how many seniors and juniors, and all of the API students are first generation Asian Americans. So really rewarding work that's happening, where we see students have this grasp, have this want to learn about Asian American studies. So with that being said, what do we think this means for the future of Texas? I've taken so much time actually talking. I'd love to stop sharing screen so I can hear from y'all and honestly remove my spotlight because my face is too big here. But honestly hear from y'all. What do y'all think this means for Texas? What do you think this means for our AANHPI communities who regularly see ourselves not only in our public education books, but also in media, in books, in politics, to be honest, and places of leadership? How does that make y'all feel?
Junia, go for it.
Sorry guys, I couldn't unmute. I think that this definitely empowers young Asian Americans to view their positions in society as leaders. And I love how you mentioned representation, because I think that's something that all Asian American youth have struggled with in the past. And this enables them to be able to see advocates in the past and know that that is a possibility for them. And they're not just restricted to the different STEM career pathways that are being pushed onto them every single day. And I also think that this also educates other communities on Asian American history, and it furthers the idea that we need to be collective in our models of advocacy and activism in order to push for tangible change.
That's awesome, Junia. Yeah, you got all of that wrapped up in a bow so nicely. I also think too, it's not only just the representation part. I think it's also making all of us also feel comfortable to take that space. Because I know for myself as a young API, when I was a young API person, it was the idea I never felt like I could take up space. I was always told by my parents, don't be loud, don't be flashy, don't put too much attention to yourself. Just do what you're supposed to do. Always get really good grades. If you didn't get really good grades, you know, you'd stop, blah, 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 blah. But at some point, if we kept doing those things, if we kept adhering to the model minority myth of trying to do our best and just keep our heads down, we'll never see the change that was meant for us. We'll never see the opportunities that were meant for us because we saw somebody else in that spot. There has to be that moment, that paradigm shift for all of us to be like, well, no, damn, why can't I be reflected in these places? Or why can't my voice, or why can't even just my lived experience as somebody who is whether first or second generation see myself in these places of power? Because if not, we'll stay to it. We'll stay like, oh, everything's nice and quiet. Everything's nice and cushy. That's not what life is meant to be. We only have one life for a reason, right? So it's this idea of stepping up and really advocating in places. And even to what Ginia was saying too about the STEM careers that keep pushing towards us. My parents for so long wanted me to be the best Filipino daughter and become a nurse. And I said no. It was even to the point where I graduated from college and I walked off the stage and my mom still asked me, are you sure you don't want to be a nurse? Because you could still be a nurse even though you just graduated with your bachelor's. Oh, that's the real. But with that being said, as much as like STEM careers do get pushed on all of us, I think there's also an opportunity to lean in and be like, how do I take, maybe that's your career that you want to do, how do you also blend advocacy in it? How do you also blend who you are as a person to show up for other people? Because I think a lot of the times we're not given the space to feel that way. We're not given the space to really explore what that possibly looks like. And for as long as I've been at Asian Texans for Justice, I've been more determined than ever to find space and make space for other young AAPI folks to be like, well, no, I can do this, or no, I can learn how to do this, or no, I can find the right people to help me figure this out. Because if we keep doing this again, we're just going to be in these little silos where nothing changes for us. And again, I don't want to be talking too much, so I'd love to hear from y'all before I start talking on our next topic.
No, it was really interesting hearing about like the education system in Texas. If I were to create a parallel to Georgia, there's a similar organization to you guys, called Asian American Voices of Education, AVID. I don't know if you know them or if you don't. But one, he's really amazing if you do know her. She's the exec director. So Ovid, essentially, they work on like encouraging Asian American studies in schools. But the issue is there's only 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 accredited professors who can teach Asian American studies. Emory University has the only Asian American studies elective. And one of the professors who's very involved with the nonprofit, she teaches at a local Kennesaw State University. But even then, she doesn't actually teach Asian American studies. She teaches like history in general. So the main issue is that even if we were to expand it out statewide, we don't have teachers for that elective. So
yeah, that's tough because in Texas we only have UT Austin is the only one that teaches an accredited like major and minor program for Asian American studies, which you would think with a state with a state as big as us, like we would have more, but we don't. And the story honestly behind it, they actually staged a sit-in order to get Asian American studies as a course that they can actually learn. And from that started like this whole shift towards Asian American studies. And I know it requires people stepping up, right? It requires people not doing the STEM fields that they normally would have done and maybe finding a passion project in Asian American studies. Ooh, sorry if my cat's too loud. Anika, I see you come up on camera. Would you like to say anything?
Oh, sure. I mean, I just like I was able to come on camera, so I just thought I would. But I guess I'm in California, and so California has recently like rolled out this initiative to have ethnic studies be a mandatory semester class for people to take. which I think is interesting, but I actually didn't know about this whole Texas thing and how there's actually piloting a course on specifically Asian American studies. And honestly, I really want that to be a thing in California, because there are so many Asian students, and I think it would be awesome if they could like see their specific ethnicity be represented. I think like a lot of Asian history is just like kept under wraps. It's not like, and for example, like in my ethnic studies class that like I'm taking, I'm so lucky to be able to take that. I did a presentation on this like ethnic enclave that actually existed in my city, and it was like it existed for like decades, but not a lot of people in my city even know about it, which is insane to me. And I really think that like the introduction to of an Asian American studies class would really just increase awareness in young people in the new generation of like Americans, and also like, you know, just generally help with building empathy and understanding.
Yeah, for sure. I also would be remiss if I didn't say it. Like, other than New York and California, Texas is actually the third largest API population compared to all the other states. So we know that the Asian American Pacific Islander community is like the fastest growing. So we also know that folks are coming from New York and California and moving down to Texas. So we definitely see how this would be so much beneficial. I mean, to what you were saying, that whole empathy part, it's the paradigm shift again of saying that Asian American history is American history, like point blank. It's just like how, you know, Black history is American history, Latinx history is also American history. It's this idea that this history was always in existence, but it was never designed for us to learn. So we're taking back that power, so that way we can show that it was always meant for all of us. And I think at the end of the day, if we could teach more empathy and more accurate history, it would change the trajectory of what we see this future looking like. I'm gonna like briefly hit on the other topic that we're supposed to talk about today, which is like running for office. So this was like the perfect chasm, I'm not gonna lie, about talking about Asian American studies. And actually, I don't know if I think Ankita, I think I told you, I'm actually running for school board. So I took this opportunity to take everything that I'm learning in the advocacy space and the nonprofit space about advocating for Asian American studies, but also just advocating for public education every single day, to be like, how do we do this for our community in the suburb I live in? So I live in San Antonio, Texas, and although we're not like a Houston ethno-burb of like all API goodness, I definitely see that there's an importance on showing representation and leadership that's reflective of our community. So for far too long, we've had, you know, I'll be completely honest, we've had old white men in power who clearly do not understand the community needs, the community diverse needs of folks and students, especially now in the year 2025, surprise, surprise. And so I decided to run because I wanted to be that best advocate. I wanted to use all of my skills that I've learned so far to really lead and represent communities, especially marginalized communities of color, onto why it's important to run for office, because we need to see our faces in office. B, to be loud about the issues and the values that we have. I'm proud to be a progressive Democrat. I'm proud to be somebody who fights for equal opportunities for all, fights for language justice, fights for climate justice, fights for public education, point blank. But yet, a lot of times it's hard for somebody who identifies as AAPI to run for office. It's an idea of who are you to take up space again? But at the same time, you'd be surprised to see how much joy there is in running for office. So I hope all of you here could possibly think, oh, if I can see more people who look like me and have my same lived experience run for office, and I sure as heck I'm gonna do the same exact thing too. Because the only way we're ever gonna change what the systems that are in place are right now is if we infiltrate inside of it and literally burn it from the inside, and in a good way. Don't think of like complete anarchy. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying by being a part of the solution means stepping up into the arena and running for office. It means stepping up to make yourself vulnerable in these spaces where, again, it's not meant for us, but that's how the only way we're going to recreate it is by stepping in there and just redesigning everything from scratch. I'm currently running against somebody who's been in there for the past 12 years, has been silent on all the issues about like vouchers for it's in particular. We know here in vouchers, it's already going to take so much funding away from public schools. Only now is this person like finally being loud about vouchers because somebody's running against her on vouchers. So it's like that type of stuff, right? But I want to use this opportunity to share with you that your advocacy, no matter how in which ways you step into it, should always lead you, how am I best serving my community in the best way that I know how? And that requires being in the community. So getting involved with any, like, of course, your Democratic Party, your clubs, your organizations that literally are fueling you the resources and hyping you up in every possible opportunity to do these things. But also, how are you best serving them in the ways that you know that's authentic to you and your lived experiences? I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now if I didn't have the support of the Democratic Party, progressive other Democrats in these spaces, showing me that I can be that leader to step up in the room. And I know that y'all are in good trouble, especially with Ankita, and like making your voices heard, but also again showing up because our voices and our lived experiences matter. I feel like I've said that so many times, but you'd be surprised that a lot of people dismiss it. And it's not for the reason of, oh, it's easier said than done. It's more of like, I'm starting to see more and more people run for office that look like us. And it's starting to feel like we're getting a grasp on things. It's not only about being API and like certain, like it's starting to, how do I say this? Not just like look cool, but you see the actual tangible results when our communities are represented. So I'd love to I'll stop right here because again, I've been talking way too much. I hear what y'all's thoughts are, any questions that y'all may have. As you can see from my messy office, I do a lot of like organizing like work in Texas, but it's because I give a damn about progressive values and making sure that our communities are always represented.
Yeah, thank you, Nicolette. I definitely appreciate it. If there are any specific questions for her, I'd love to have her answer them for you. But if not, I do have a couple questions for her. But yeah, I'll give it like a second or two.
I actually have a quick question. So, I noticed you mentioned earlier about like there are certain other states which currently have legislation which mandates Asian American history to be integrated within American history education, and Illinois is one of those states. However, the education that I've been receiving, well, the law was supposed to go into effect for the 22-23 school year, and the education that I've been receiving is pretty lacking on Asian American history. And something that's been really important to Pritzker, the governor, is having like that education be specifically I guess like customized to like be more of like what's like how it pertains to Illinois and the Midwest as a whole. And I haven't really been seeing that at all. Like our Asian American education has literally been like 3 terms out of like a course that makes us learn several thousand key terms. And I was wondering if you knew of any initiatives in Illinois to continue to further our models of Asian American education, or like anything that I could personally do to support that?
Not off the top of my head in Illinois, but I believe it was, oh, is it Minnesota? No. There's another Midwestern state, Ohio maybe. They did legislation to make it a mandate to teach Asian American studies. It was brought by the Hmong community. Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Where did I know it's one, I know it's one of the Midwestern states for sure.
It could be Minnesota.
It could be Minnesota, I think, but
Minnesota is pretty liberal, so I was thinking maybe it's them, but I don't know.
Oh, it's Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin.
There we go.
It's the introduction of Hmong American and Asian American studies into the curriculum. They made it an actual like a law to mandate it. What's it called? First and foremost, like, I'm so sorry you're only learning 3 terms of Asian American studies in your curriculum. I would actually start, if you could possibly, I don't know how capacity wise you are, but like I would definitely start going to like your school board meetings and advocating with other students about what's even happening, because the school board is supposed to hear from students and families exactly like what issues that they're having, whether it's curriculum, teachers, XYZ. But if you got like a group of students all to testify during the next school board hearing, they could take that into consideration and see what exactly they've signed up to teach in the course and why it's not actually being fulfilled. So like trying to address that disparity. I would think, yeah, that would be my first train of action, because then is there a specific educator who's behind that? Or like, is there an educator who's just teaching the course?
No, I think it's like pretty much like derivative of the fact that I go to like it's not like a private high school, but it's very much like a college prep high school. So all of our courses are designed to fit the AP framework. So there's not a lot of room where like they inject it while staying true to like what we need to know for the AP exam. But I think it's still not a great excuse for I guess like following the law when it comes to the course.
Yeah, there's usually a board of trustees or a school board that like above that you can start reporting that information to. And like I said, like having a bunch of students alongside you all testifying that same thing, they're gonna have to pay attention and try to address that. So you could start there, and definitely I would lean on whichever educators that are friendly to y'all's cause, lean on them to see what exactly they would recommend to, because again, I'm not in Illinois, but I can only imagine that if you're feeling this, there are other students who feel this way too. And there are probably most likely educators who also feel this way too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's really cool. Sadly, a lot of my sports practices clash with school board meetings, so I will not be able to go to one until April. So we'll be going to one in April and May probably. I'm excited for those, especially given that I wasn't able to advocate for like Asian American studies in my county until then. They're piloting it in a county next to us, but I don't know with like the funding that Doge is currently cutting, a lot of it might not actually happen because of like preemptive getting rid of stuff because it might align with DEI. Even if it like genuinely doesn't, because it's history, no matter whose face it is.
That's true.
But I mean, if there are any other questions, comments, etc., feel free to unmute and go for it.
Oh, I mean, like, Jonia kind of mentioned like AP standards. And I guess like one thing I found interesting when I was looking at their courses is that there's no like AP Asian American studies. Like they have like AP like African American studies and like world history modern and like European history, but they don't have like Asian American history or like even like Asian history in general, because like, you know, Asia's a continent, so it would obviously have its diverse history. And then also like on the world languages section as well, they have like 2 Asian languages and like I think like 5 European languages. So, and that's, I would say that's like a pretty major framework a lot of schools implement. So that's a bit disappointing as well.
Yeah, for sure. I would even think, because in college they have more I guess flexibility and leeway to do an actual just Asian studies course. or Asian histories course. I remember doing that in college.
Yeah, actually, Anika, to address your point, I think in Georgia, a coalition is currently starting to advocate for Asian American studies at the college board level. So I think they're actually having like an information session on March 26th. I can forward you both the information. I feel like it'd be interesting for y'all to hop in, especially Nicolette, as you've actually gone through the process of trying to get it approved. Even if it's not directly with College Board, I think it'd be interesting.
That would be, yeah. I will preface to say, all the crazy higher education laws that they're trying to change here in Texas may not, be helpful after all, because they've already gotten rid of DEI here in Texas, so there's that.
They just passed a commendation of Donald Trump in the Georgia Senate. So I don't know what's going on over there. It's like, okay.
That sounds fun. Good God.
I watched the legislature and it feels like it's burning down, but it's okay. Because there's some really sweet state house legislators that actually know what they're doing and they're actually trying. So I just hope it all comes to fruition in 2026. But for sure. Madeline, you have anything? I'm gonna target you.
He said no.
He got scared. Okay. If no one else has any other questions or comments, seriously, thank you, Nicolette, for coming on today. I totally appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this. It was really interesting getting to hear about what you're doing and all of that. Are you currently in a primary for your school board race, or have you won the primary? Or
No, so it's a nonpartisan race. We only have open primaries in like our even numbered years. So it's just myself versus the incumbent. And then I'll be on the ballot for May 3rd, which is our election day here in San Antonio.
if you want, we'll make an official endorsement post and everything if you'd like. Yes. We usually
Also,
do
if there's
those, but because we can't do them until you won your primary, but like since it's an open election and you're only running against one person, you've essentially won your primary
I
just by
did.
like kind of. And so it would be really easy, I think, once we get it like approved by national to just like collaborate with Texas HSMs and you and just have like an endorsement thing, which would be cute.
Yeah, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if there's like a headshot or like anything specific you like on endorsement posts, just let us know.
Yeah.
Also, just adding on to that, if there's anything you need from us, like phone banking or voter
Yes.
outreach, we've done that in previous elections, like local elections. So if you need anything, just like please let Ankita or I know. We'd be happy to help out or assist in any way we can.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that'd be
like
a huge help. Thanks.
if you just like give us a open VB dialer link or whatever it is, like VPV, that. We can organize like a little like phone banking thing for like an hour and like help people out, and it would be really low stress. And if you wanted, you could hop on and talk and stuff like that, and it would be really nice. But
That'd be so much fun. Yeah.
we like to like hopefully support all the candidates and all the political people who do come on our events, because like obviously y'all took time out of your day to come and talk to us, and we like to like pay it back and stuff like that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely.
Of course. Okay. Feel free to forward any information you want from that specifically, but on the topic of what we were just on, thank you again. It was a pleasure. We will be sharing the slides, I think, with the rest of the group who wasn't able to make it, but I cannot wait to work with you more in the future. And see you in Atlanta, maybe. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. Oh my goodness. But yeah, don't be strangers. Feel free to like if you want to like connect on Instagram and all that good stuff, like all my Instagram, I think we're collaborators on the post. So if anybody's on Instagram, feel free to reach out to me there. And yeah.
Ankita, pick for Instagram?
Oh, yes. We need to take a little selfie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Come on camera.
Junior, you look fine.
look great. You can't even.
If there's anything, I don't see it. So
I know.
wow, Millen just went no photos ever. Yeah. Achatan, do you want to turn it back on? Or are you good?
Oh yeah, one
Okay.
second, sorry.
You're all good. Okay. Yes. Okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank y'all so much. I look forward to seeing y'all really soon.